From this office building, beautifully located on the Amsterdam waterside, a company operates called Eysink Smeets Business Consultants. This company is specialized in short-circuiting rapid changes of strategy for retail-oriented chief executives. Eysink Smeets Business Consultants' applicability is very limited because of their narrow specialization. Yet this very specialization in the field of tension between three forces makes them very effective. These three forces can be defined precisely. First of all, the client. He is a dynamic, self-willed, enterprising, result-oriented executive. Secondly, the phase. He must guide his company through radical and rapid changes of strategy. Thirdly, the industry. His company belongs to, or aims to belong to, the retail industry. These fields of tensions overlap most often in times of turnaround, diversification, internationalization, and conglomeration. That is the world in which Eysink Smeets Business Consultants operate. In a number of European countries, projects are done in the direct retail industry, but also in the service and manufacturing industries, wherever retailing is or becomes of strategic importance. This film helps to understand more about the nature of this very narrow specialization. It's impossible to give the complete details about the projects that Eysink Smeets Business Consultants do, due to their strategic and confidential nature. So, we asked a selection of the clients of Eysink Smeets Business Consultants if they would be willing to tell about the challenges they are faced with, the way they approach them, their method, their ambition, their style, and why they use Eysink Smeets Business Consultants. We have talked with 3 clients in 3 different countries. They were all faced with an almost impossible challenge: crumbling market shares, diving turnovers, and disastrous profit developments, and predictions for even worse to come. These 3 attacked their challenge each in the way they knew best. 3 different people, but in a lot of things also remarkably alike. One of the biggest retail companies in Sweden sells its 1.3 billion Swedish kroner turnover through some of the smallest outlets. This big company is called Pressbyrån, and the small shops are called kiosks. A kiosk in Sweden is an outlet no bigger than a window in a wall through which the goods are sold. Pressbyrån ran into trouble recently. The man who was faced with the challenge to turn this company around before impending disaster is called Göran Bikvist. He was born in 1939, started his career in construction before joining Pressbyrån and becoming managing director in 1983. He must have a hell of a job to make a profit out of such small outlets.
It's a small shop, and therefore you should have a number of it. And Pressbyrån has over 600. In total, Pressbyrån has over 500,000 customers a day. That's nearly 1,000 for each kiosk a day.
They buy small items: cigarettes, newspapers, magazines, confectionery, toothbrushes, ice cream, soft drinks, during long opening hours. The average sale per customer is 10 kroner in goods and 10 kroner in services and tickets. Pressbyrån recently was faced with problems. Bikvist saw 2 important strategic threats: a general traffic problem due to the majority of the Pressbyrån locations near public transport stations in a time when public transport declined rapidly, and an even more serious problem posed by the assortment mix.
The big problem for us is that people smoke less than before, and that they are buying so many magazines as they used to do. That's because of video and other media coming up. But these two are together almost half of our annual sale.
Beekvist was convinced that very drastic action was needed to save Pressbyrån. Otherwise,
it would probably have disappeared within a decade. I've always been convinced of the possibilities of the company, of the Pressbyrån, of the idea to sell service and sell necessary stuff to people on the move.
Beekvist rightly believed that the stronghold Pressbyrån had with people on the move was a far more strategic asset than the little kiosks themselves. Turning his thinking around in this way made him create advantages from disadvantages.
It's a very tough market and a very interesting market. And it is a very profitable market. Because Pressbyrån is never on the shopping list. You never plan to go to Pressbyrån. You buy in Pressbyrån because we happen to be on the way.
If you take your business from that point of view, you can make a profit from
impulse.
Yes, always impulses. We intend to keep our 500,000 customers every day, but selling other things. Also, a first step in that direction is going from kiosk to stores, letting people coming in and coming into contact with our assortment, with our products. It will raise your sale per customer, because when the customer comes in and get in touch with the stuff, he will fall for the impulse to buy more. If you make an increase for 50%, it's per customer from 10 kronor to 15 kronor, and he won't even notice the difference. But we will notice the difference.
At 500,000 customers per day, Beekvist indeed does notice the difference.
We have increases in sale between 25 and 200% in each store.
But just changing the stores was only giving relief on a middle long-term basis. Now, the new sales machines had to be filled with new assortment to give the necessary long-term continuity. One of the main parts of the assortment, the printed media, is under heavy pressure from TV and video. It is the magazines that are hit. So what is more logical than replacing them with electronic media?
We have started renting video cassettes and been very successful. We are probably the leading retail chain in Europe today, with over 350 outlets having video cassettes for rental.
The results are very positive. The turnover has not dropped, contrary to all predictions, but shown a modest increase from 1.2 billion Swedish kroner in 1981 via a little over 1.3 billion in 1983, the year Beekvist became managing director, to a stable 1.308 billion in 1987. The profit developments show where the real improvements were. From 10.6 million kroner in 1981 via 11.4 in 1983 to 35.8 million in 1987.
During the process, Beekvist used Eysink Smeets as a sparring partner.
Beekvist not only finds the projects of Eysink Smeets effective, but also the style.
It's a dialogue, and a very open dialogue, and sometimes he says you're talking shit, but probably sometimes I'm doing it, and I'm saying it to him. But
does Beekvist like these confrontations?
Yes, it suits me well. I need it.
It is Beekfisk's style of management that made him convince his whole organization. How would he describe himself as a manager?
Probably quite creative, quite impatient when things aren't moving. Creative management should be combined with management by walking around. It's quite easy to convince your management, but management don't sell any cigarettes and don't sell any newspaper, and they very seldom meet customers. But people in the shop, in the kiosks, they meet customers, and that's them you have to convince to get result.
Could Beekfisk imagine himself doing something completely different?
I could think of being a teacher, convincing my pupils.
It's still too early for that. He's moved on to become president for new business of the holding company of Pressbyrån, Priab. He leaves behind a healthy company with a good perspective for the future. Beekfisk is proud of that.
Yes, I'm proud of the result of Pressbyrån. Yes, I am.
As in most Scandinavian countries, the retail market of Denmark was and is dominated by the cooperative movement.
This has ensured relative quiet for decades. The peace has been shattered roughly. First, by the private company Dansk Supermarkets, with its powerful Futex, Bilka, and Netto formulas, and more recently, by a powerful third force, the wholesale company Dagrofa. This company, with a turnover of 4.5 billion Danish kroner in 1986 to 87, is recreated from a dormant distribution company into an active party in the fight for the Danish household money. Managing this change is Axel Andreasen. He was born in 1942, studied engineering and economics, and set out on an international career in several types of industry before becoming managing director of Dagrofa in 1984. Andreasen calmly understates the challenge he was faced with at his new job.
The company here was not profitable at that time, but it was good elements in the organization.
Although lots of problems were inside his company, his main problems were inside his market.
The bigger supermarket, they expand. The smaller one, the smaller markets, a lot of them disappear.
And that was exactly where lots of Dagrofa's clients were. So, reorganizing Dagrofa had to include being attractive for the bigger supermarkets.
If you've not been doing that, we have been forced down to be a wholesaler for smaller supermarket or mini markets. And our turnover would have been declining.
Andreasen's strategy involved not only Danish competitors, but a much more frightening international European perspective.
You need to have a big dominance at your home market.
So Andreasen's job was not to gently steer his company toward the year 2000, but to fight.
We're fighting for survival, and we're fighting for making a profitable, interesting company for the future.
He created the necessary clarity by cutting up Dagrofa into profit centers. This gave Andreasen the possibility to really get performance out of his managers.
Before that, they couldn't influence the balance sheet very much. They were dependent on other functions. Today, we have taken away the excuses and we are given the freedom to run the business. So it means you also can require a lot.
The profit centers not only made his existing business much sharper, but also gave him the platform to make new ones, with their own market, their own parameters, their own weapons. There is a new company in textiles, one in fresh food, and one for the market segment with huge potential, the biggest but most independent supermarkets.
Instead of just try to handle them as part of our wholesale business, we felt that we had to really do something new, was the best to form a complete new company.
using its own key elements of success.
We are using the 80-20 rules quite a lot all over the company, so really trying to do the most important thing and do that to our best, better than competitors.
The new wholesale company was called Supergross, and within 1.5 years, it shot up from 0 to a 700 million Danish kroner turnover, and is profitable today.
It's also giving our much more volume, it's giving us much more strength and power to the industry, and have also given the company a belief for the future.
Although Andreasen forms his company around the needs of the market, he's a strong advocate of forceful cost reduction to give him liberty to create the competitive edge in the market.
As an example, we are running the whole Supergross company less than 2% in costs. And even 5 to 6 is very good. I mean, other wholesalers in other Scandinavian countries and other places in Europe, they're operating around 10, even up to 15.
To help him formulate the outline and the details of the strategy, Andreasen used Eysink Smeets from the very start.
Since that, used him in different ways, projects, new product lines, new concepts, and I continue to use him as dialogue, brainstorming partners. He's a very creative guy. He had very good ideas, and I feel he's very honest and straight.
The very personal relationship doesn't prevent useful cooperation with Andreasen's managers.
Our different managers here in Dagrofa, they like him too. They feel he's very competent.
Andreasen's strategy paid off.
The market went on maximum 2%, and we went on with an increase on 11%. So we have increased our market share more than 0.5% during that period.
Which means that since 1983, the market share has risen from 15.7 to 16.2% in a market of 4.5 million people. Andreasen joined Dagrofa in 1984, and at the same time, a new accounting system was adopted, making comparisons difficult. Since 1983, Dagrofa moved from 3.8 to 4.5 billion Danish kroner. The results before tax went from -9 to a peak of 22 million in 1985 to 86 to 7 million in 1987, and that in a time when most experts had given up on Dagrofa.
We are profitable today, yes, but not as much as we want.
Andreasen not only calculates result in figures, he also calculates in chances of survival in a hardening market.
Our competitiveness is much better today than years ago, and we'll continue. We'll say controlled expansion.
Andreasen is convinced of Dagrofa's future situation in tomorrow's tough market.
There'll be very few wholesalers left. We'll be one of them. We'll be the biggest.
Big multinational multiple chains like Ahold and Vindex dominate the retail market of Holland.
One of the main unifying factors in the remaining independent sector is Uniqlo. Its turnover of about 1.2 billion Dutch guilders takes care of about 7.5% of the retail market share of the consumer food market. The president responsible for retail performance is Fred Legatsky, born in 1947, educated in Holland and the United States in business science and marketing, and before joining Uniqlo in 1983, one of Ahol's most energetic directors.
I am in the process of changing, of helping to change a wholesale company, a traditional wholesale company, into what we call it a retail support company.
To turn companies around is a challenge that Legatsky likes very much and knows a lot about.
I've been almost always in a situation where change has to take part, where people are not as highly motivated as they should be, why people are afraid of competition, while in a lot of cases people are pessimistic about what is going to happen.
That was most definitely the case with most independent retailers in Holland.
They were losing market share quickly.
That came as no surprise to Legatsky.
Competitive disadvantage of our group was that our store concept were weak and all the stores were too expensive.
And if that was not enough, the concepts were uncontrollable.
It had so many takeovers in the past that there were 13 or 14 store concepts with all kinds of different names and different cultures within the companies.
Legatsky was very hesitant to just create a new fighting spirit.
It's very dangerous to let them fight without weapons.
In order to know what weapons to give them, Legatsky followed the routine he has developed over the years.
I first would like to find out how the company itself and the consumers and the industry thinks about that specific company I'm in. Then I'd like to find out what the key elements are of success in that specific industry.
That is how Legatsky developed the new basis for the relationship of wholesaler and retailer. Independent retailers with a strong national backup, a retail support company that makes the best of both worlds.
If you work with independent, you should let them play guerrilla in the market. And if you play guerrilla, you need a strong base.
Unicro was to be that strong base.
Under the name Super, different store concepts came together in one formula with 3 different price lines: Super Club, Super Direct, and Super Service. Also, the Unicro organization was changed beyond recognition.
Good people in an organization are waiting for you because they say, well, finally something's going to happen. And the people that are not good and can't adjust, well, shouldn't belong in this organization, at least not on a crucial function.
That means that even good managers might lose their job.
If you talk about the top, there might be very good people in between, but most of those people have lost the credibility in the last 3 or 4 years. And if deep down in the organization, people don't give credits anymore to their top management, how good they even are, they can never succeed anymore.
Although Legatsky is highly interested in the long-term perspective, it doesn't mean he is distant from the details.
I'm not a man that enjoys optimizing a certain situation by looking after the last percent and last 2%. But in every manager's position, there are some details that can be very crucial to success or not success, or very crucial to the bottom line. So you can't say, I don't look after details.
This combination of strategic thinking and crucial details typifies Legatsky's long-standing relationship with Eysink Smeets.
You need a consultant that really is used to work with a president or chief executive of a company. He's a hands-on consultant, which I like.
All in all, Legatsky has pushed Unicro and its retailers quite hard, as befits his style.
I'm not a man of small steps in running a business, because most of the time when I come in, the company or the division doesn't have the time for small steps.
And big steps were taken in Unicro's turnover. From just over 1 billion Dutch guilders in 1982, via just under 1 billion in 1983, the year Legatsky joined, to 1.215 billion in 1987. Even bigger steps were taken in the company's result. The diving profits were checked in 1985 at a low of 7.3 million guilders, and has now more than doubled in 1986 to 87 to just over 15 million. Most important, Unicro's clients are back in the race, because without clients, no Unicro.
The framework is ready. They have private labels that are good. They have layouts for stores that are good. They have the infrastructure for an information system now that's good.
That has resulted in drastic increases in the market share of the Unicro retail market share. From a low of 4.3 in 1983, it is now up to 7.3.
Legatsky believes that the best result yet is in the mind of the retailers.
The retailers are not afraid anymore of the change in this country.
These were 3 people, all faced with the challenge to improve the results of their company drastically. And they all faced this challenge in their own individual way. The one thing that they all have in common is that Eysink Smeets Business Consultants helps them to short-circuit these rapid and radical changes of strategy into tangible results.
If you want to know more about this company with its narrow specialization, you can ask for more information at Eysink Smeets Business Consultants, the Information Manager, Westerdoksdijk 40, 1013 AE Amsterdam, Holland. Or phone International 31 for Holland, 20 for Amsterdam, and 265573 for Eysink Smeets Business Consultants. On fax, International 31 20 22 4637.